Omdahl Show. This is episode 1137, and we are here live in Southwest Florida in my studio. Baby Bjorn is here today. Maybe he will grace us with his presence. We are back home from, taking care of my mom for the last several days. So baby Bjorn is back home today, and hopefully he will come up here and say hello. If you're joining me live, please say hello. Let me know if you've been crafting. Let me know if you have questions for me. Let's just start the party. Hi Val, good morning. I know it'll take a few minutes for people to pop over from pre-chat and notifications. Hi Leona and Sharon. Lori, good morning. Hope everybody's having a great day so far. It's 10 o'clock here. Everything's good here so far. Hi Chris and Joe, Judy, Angela. Happy Tuesday everybody. Yes, it's Tuesday. This is the day of the week that we dedicate the live show to Shawls for Sharing. Let's see. Hi Judy, Angela, Edna, Sharon, Edna. I already said Edna. Hi. Oh, there's the AC, Bjorn, the loud AC. Looks up at it, that's very loud. It's also very important, sweetheart. It would get way too hot in here if we didn't have it. Come on up and say hi. Come on. That's a good boy. Come on up. Everybody wants to say hi to you. Well, maybe not everybody. Some people. Hi, Irene. Hi, Judy. Come on, sweetheart. Come on up. You can do it. There he is. There he is. Hi. Thank you, Edna. This is going to be a new pattern released today. It's called the Aqua. Knit Cowl, and the pattern will be out sometime today. Hi, Diane. Did I have a nice lunch with my son yesterday? Yes, we did. We had a wonderful time. We went to that Italian specialty shop called Pansardo. I did not share photos here. I will share photos here in a community post today. I even got a photo with Marlon. Haven't gotten a photo with him in, gosh, a long time. It was great to see him. I haven't seen him in a long time either, so all of that was great. Oh, he did pop in. You got to see him for a second yesterday on the show too. But yeah, we had an incredible sandwich, and the chef purveyor of the shop, he gave us, he said, may I make you a special pizza not on the menu? And we're like, okay. So he made us a pizza with Sardinian sausage and Sardinian cheeses. Everything in the shop is from Sardinia, which is an island off of Italy. And what else? And then we had a prosciutto and fresh mozzarella, homemade basil, homemade pesto, and arugula sandwich. They were amazing and not expensive either. It was just incredible. It's a little shop inside an industrial park, so not fancy, not expensive, just really amazing food, and we had a great time. Then the Guitar Center has opened up locally here. And so we went over to the Guitar Center, we went into the drum room, and we both tried out the drums, which was fun. Then we went into the acoustic guitar room and looked at everything, looked throughout the whole store actually. We both love music and instruments, so we checked out the whole place. And then I asked them about guitar lessons. They're offering a special right now because the store just opened, and turns out they didn't have any times that were gonna work for me, so it's not the right time for that. Anyway, that's fine. Hi, Steffi. Good morning. Hi, Nora. Oh, I hope your kitty gets better real soon, Nora. That's very stressful. It's very stressful. Yep. Definitely sending positive vibes his way. Absolutely. I tried out a new hairstyle today, and I'm not sure I like it. I did 2 tiny little braids here, and I'm not sure I like it. But I do love these clips. These clips are fun. You're welcome, Nora. My pleasure. Okay, are we ready to get started talking about the Tranquil Tiles crochet shawl pattern? I got an email totally unrelated to this pattern this morning, but I think it's giving me an opportunity to talk about another way that we can reuse the Tranquil Tiles pattern. And if you're new to the show or new to my channel, on Tuesdays we dedicate Every week we dedicate the show on Tuesdays to Shawls for Sharing, which is my initiative with my charity, Project Kristin Cares, to bring awareness to domestic violence, to raise money and awareness for survivors of domestic violence. And every week every quarter I dedicate one pattern to the charity, and Judy's sharing a link right now if you want to learn more about my charity. Anyway, every week what I like to do is think of a way or come up with a way to look at the pattern from a different point of view. Think about it outside the box. So like one week we talk about the difference between, one week for this particular pattern we've shown samples of how this looks different if you use multiple colors, whether you do each motif in it. Let me go grab them. Let me go grab those other samples. Never hurts to have another little reminder. We've talked about how to do it in different weights of yarn and what that means. When you're making smaller motifs, you need more, and when you make bigger motifs, you need less. So we've talked about the gauge and using different yarns and different weights of yarns and how that affects the pattern. We've talked about doing different colors within each motif. We've also talked about doing each motif different colors. So I would call that more color blocking. And this actually shows you what it would look like if you did a self-striping yarn too. If you did like a gradient self-striping yarn, you wouldn't have to change color every round like I did here. It would just do that on its own, which that would be cool too. So lots of different, and each of these examples actually looks a lot different, right? So those are really simple changes that you can make. So even working with color can change the look of something a lot. Changing the fiber content, changing the weight of the yarn. If you did this in a thinner yarn that was maybe a little more slinky, an organic cotton, a bamboo, an alpaca, you could make this a little dressier. If you added beads, you could make it dressier. It's not to say that this isn't beautiful, but you can do different things with a pattern by changing the yarn, changing the weight, changing the color. What else have we talked about? We've talked about using these motifs to make completely different fabrics, right? We've talked about instead of doing a triangle shape, when you join the motifs together, we've talked about making a rectangle and what to do with that rectangle. That rectangle can be an Afghan, it can be a rectangular wrap type shawl, it could be the front and back of a poncho, the front and back of a top, the front and back of any garment that you would want to do, and you could even make a hat. So like there's all sorts of other things that you can do with motifs beyond what is shown in a project. We've talked about doing the motifs in a different formation. This is more diamond formation of the squares, but you could also do them just lined up as squares as well. So lots of options. And today I thought I would talk about something a little bit different. And like I said, I got an email in this morning, and it's just great how one thing can lead to another, right? So somebody was asking about a specific pattern on my website called the Isla Morada crochet shawl pattern, and it's a half hexagon, which if you're familiar with top-down increasing shawls, a half hexagon is 3 increases instead of 2 increases for a triangle, right? Does that make sense to everybody? I'll pause for a second and ask about that. Oh, I forgot my coffee too. Let me go grab it. I tried out a new Super Greens powder this morning. It's berry flavored, but it's that really dark, like seaweed green. And you put 1 scoop in a cup of water, and you're supposed to get all these vitamins and minerals and stuff. And I'll tell you, it didn't taste that bad. It tasted pretty good. Does everybody understand the difference between a top-down increasing triangle versus half hexagon pattern? I think a lot of you do. Donna doesn't. Okay, yeah, we'll draw that first then, because that'll be the segue into where we're going to go today with, let's see, what am I going to set up here? I'll take this box and set it up as a separate little table here. I have an extra table, but I don't want to take my laptop off the table because it helps me to read comments to leave that one up too. Will this work? Sure it will. We don't need to be fancy here. We just need to be useful. All right, and I think I prefer using the darkest colors possible when doing this, and I don't see my black. I think it's in the car for some reason, so we'll do the brown. Oh, does the dress come in a shorter version, Nora? That's great. The $14 dresses, right? I can't get over how much I love these $14 dresses in my Amazon shop. The sleeved one I wore yesterday and the tank top one I'm wearing today. I could literally wear these every single day. Glad to hear there's a shorter version. I know my mom will like knowing that too, and I wouldn't mind having the option as well. Okay, so let's go back to, so if we're doing a top-down increasing triangular, oh, I'm gonna have to face that to me first. That didn't look like a triangle. Okay, so when you're doing a top-down increasing triangular shawl, you're doing double increases down the center and single increases along each side. This applies to knitting and crochet, okay? So if you're doing a top-down increasing triangular shawl, you're working back and forth in rows, not in rounds, and you're doing double increases down the center and singular increases along each side. And that's how you start small and then grow large to make a triangle. And oh, the shorter one's $14 too. Okay, I might even get other colors then if that's the case. Thank you for letting me know, and I will pop that in my shop for anybody else interested as well. And so a half hexagon shape is worked the same way. See, you know, a lot of us like that shape for a shawl as well. And so what this ends up being is double increases twice along both of those increase lines, and then singular increases along each edge. So you start small, you start with a small row there, and we end up with large rows at the bottom. Now does this make sense? I will pause and make sure that that makes sense now. Great, Donna gets it now. Let's see if anybody else, are we all on the same page now? Now the problem with the lady's request was that she wants to know how to turn this into a hexagon to make a baby blanket. And the short answer is, yes, it's possible, but it is actually, and that's where I'm going to tie in the Tranquil tile shawl pattern right now, because it is actually easier to explain how to turn a square, meaning a motif that starts small in the center. Well, let's go back to this real quick. So a square motif is worked in the round, not in rows, right? And it has 4 sets of double increases. Okay, does that make sense? So we start small when we make a motif, working in the round, and then as we grow with 4 sets of double increases, we get a larger square. Thanks, Judy, for sharing the pattern. That will help people to visualize it as well. Like, I ran out of space writing Crochet Power. I really wanted to be able to add hexagon and half hexagon to the book, but I ran out of space. Wonderful, Donna. Great, it's making sense. Okay, but can you see how different, like writing the instructions for rows is totally different than writing instructions for rounds. And let's go back to stitch multiple so you can understand that. That is what, when you're working in the round, it's a full multiple, and it's a multiple plus a little extra when you're working in rows. So and you're working in one direction and then back in the other direction, whereas when you're working in the round, you're always going the same direction. So when you're writing the instructions, writing instructions for rows is totally different than writing instructions for rounds. And if you have a copy of Crochet Power, you can see this. Go look at even in rows, even in rounds, increase in rows, increase in rounds, the 4 construction styles within each stitch pattern, and you can see how differently they're written, as well as how differently the charts look too, right? So the question was, how can I turn, or there was a 2-part question, can I turn this into a hexagon, and how? Well, the short answer is yes, of course you can. The long answer is, if you need me to do it, I have to write another pattern, right? So But that gives me a great example for talking about deconstructing the Tranquil Tiles shawl pattern again, because in this pattern, we're already having the pattern set up as working increase in rounds, which to make a square is how many increases in the round. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So you could do any other shape you want by adding more multiples, right? We're doing 4 increases to do a square. So let me draw a half hexagon now. Let's see how good my drawing skills are here. Not great, but you'll get it. You'll get the idea. So there's a hexagon. A hexagon is 6 sides. So if we have 6 sides for our piece that's going to be worked in the round instead of this square, what are we doing? We did 4 sets of double increases. Well, what are we going to do here? 6 sets of double increases. So let's do double increase, double increase. I'm going fast. That's why it's not looking very accurate. If I was doing this for a, I would take my time and do it slower. But we're trying to fit everything into 3 minutes here, so you'll get the idea. You see that? If I was doing this for a class, I'd actually draw it on Illustrator and make it perfect. But we're just hand drawing here. So you can see here, see how similar these are? So if you wanted to today, you could go look at your Tranquil Tiles pattern, look at the, in fact, let me pull it up so I can talk about the chart as well. Here it is. So to make the square, what did we start with here? Okay, so we started with 12 single crochets for the first round. And so if we started with 12 single crochets on round 1 to make a 4-sided shape, that would be 12. Let's figure out what it is per side. So it would be 12. And this is the math you could do for any motif to convert a square to a hexagon. So you figure out how many stitches make the multiple in the square, and you can divide that by the 4 sides of the square. You could convert a hexagon into a square this way too. You would figure out how many stitches were used on that first round per side. And so for this one, it's going to be 12 divided by 4 sides. 3 of those single crochets were dedicated to each repeat. And that was for a 4-sided square. If we wanted to convert this to do a keep saying half hexagon. If we wanted to convert this to doing a hexagon instead of a square, we'd take that number per side, 3, multiply it by 6 now, because we want to do 6 sides instead of 4 sides. 3 times 6 is 18. So instead of doing 12 single crochets in the first round, we would now do 18 single crochets in the first round. And then from there, you know how in most of the time in a square increase motif instruction, there's an asterisk and it says repeat all the way around. You're going to do it the same. You're just going to do it more times. So, and this would apply to a hexagon, blah. It would also apply to an octagon. So instead of doing 3 times 6 for this example, we would do 3 times 8. Now, that brings me to another thing. 18 stitches might be hard to do in your first round. If you wanted to, you could break that down again, do a first round of 9 and do 2 stitches in each stitch to get to 18 on the next round. Donna gets it. Yay! Does anybody else get this? And this is something that you could just explore on your own. Try it with the Tranquil tiles. You could make a hexagon shaped baby blanket or an Afghan out of it. Go ahead and try it today and see if you like it. Now, sometimes you end up getting more fullness and it ruffles. So when that kind of stuff happens, and this applies to anytime you're crocheting motifs, if you feel like your fabric is too full and too ruffly, use a larger hook, use a smaller yarn, get it more lacy so that there's more give when the water hits it, right? And also, if you think it's too ruffly when you're making it, make sure you block it and see how that yarn is reacting to water, because often it looks like it's going to not lay flat until you wash it and lay it flat to dry, and most of the time fabric flattens out then. Yes, that's another way that you could do this, Judy. That's a great great, great tip. So let's see if I can draw a mirror version of this upside down. So hold on a second. Do, 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 do. And not only was that a great suggestion, Judy, but now we're talking garments and ponchos too. Okay, so the lady that emailed this morning and said, could I turn the Isla Morada half hexagon shawl pattern into a hexagon baby blanket? The easiest way she could do that, make two and sew them together along that long edge, right? Does anybody see a garment in this now though? Guess what? You could, instead of sewing along the whole line for a blanket, you could leave a section for your head in the middle and just sew down either side of there. And now you've got a poncho, right? You could make a poncho, a cape. You could put a belt in these lines and make it a fitted cape. You know when we do ponchos and capes where we put a belt in so it looks like arms too? Like now you've got a more fitted looking garment. Like, shapes are so fun. I love geometry, can you tell? I do. I love it so much. Love geometry and algebra so much. I could talk about this all day. And you can apply this to any motifs. Yeah, so much versatility. So again, this could all be done if you've already downloaded the Tranquil Tiles crochet shawl pattern. You could do this, right? If you wanted to do this with actually, I take that back. The Tranquil Tiles is not a repeating pattern where you make the motif and can keep making it larger. The motifs but the motifs in Crochet Power this applies to. You could make hexagon motifs in this pattern, but then let me show you what that is. I'll draw that separately because you can join hexagon motifs as well. But any of the stitch patterns in Crochet Power were written specifically to keep growing. So you could take any one of those stitch patterns and make those squares as large as you want, meaning you could make it a motif size or you could make it an Afghan size. Yeah, it's not for everybody, Chris, but that's what gives me a purpose, right? If everybody was just as enthusiastic and good at math, I wouldn't have a job as a knit and crochet designer, right? Everybody has to have their own specialties in order to have a place in the world. We're all, so thank goodness not everybody can do it. Otherwise, who would want to buy my patterns and books? Okay, so this goes back to what we were talking about the other day about different ways to join square motifs, right? We can join them. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to draw this before I talk about it. Right? We can join squares as squares. We can join them in diamond formation, right? So now, and those are pretty much columnar, they're not offset. If you wanted to turn the Tranquil Tiles motif into a hexagon shape, this is going to be harder to draw by hand. But I'm going to try. Oh, this isn't as bad as I thought. Give me 1 second. Can't draw this sideways. I have to look at it directly. Yeah. See how they join differently? Now, you could also join these like this, and then you have an open space, and then you need to come up with a mini motif or something else, but I'll draw it so you can see what I mean. Okay, so if we drew them, there's a bunch of different ways to draw half hexagons, or to join half hexagons. But see how if we join them straight instead of offset, then we create this open hole here, which is now a square. So you could create a square motif to fit in there. Does that make sense? And then if you wanted to smooth out these edges, you'd have to make triangles to fill out those. But just like up here, remember we had to make triangles to make those straight edges up there as well. So if you were joining hexagons in straight up and down columnar fashion, In order to make a smooth fabric without rough edges, you'd have to do a mini square motif to fill in these gaps, and you'd have to do triangles to smooth out those gaps. Unless you liked it. You can like it with having rough edges too. Sometimes it looks pretty to have that kind of an edge on certain things. So it's your choice. And then on this one, again, if you wanted to smooth out those edges, you'd have to do half hexagon here and triangle there, triangle there, triangle there, triangle there, and triangle there. If you wanted your edges smooth. If you don't want your edges smooth, skip that part. Does that make sense? So many choices, right? And again, you can explore this with any motif. Any motif. All right, great. Is anybody going to explore this today? You could explore this with a motif. It'd be so much fun. But again, if it ruffles and it doesn't seem like it's going to lay flat, try washing it and getting it wet and laying it flat to dry. That may smooth it out. Or you may need to adjust your gauge to make sure that it has the ability to relax in water. When you work something really tight, like a really tight gauge, you have less flexibility with water, and when you do something at a looser gauge, you have more flexibility when your fibers hit water. And that reminds me, I told you guys I have a whole bunch of textbooks right now from culinary institutes to help build my culinary skills as I'm learning from a 3-star Michelin chef in my nighttime moonlighting second career. And the first chapter of the first book is about so much math. And chef said to me, he goes, this is one of the hardest parts for most people when they're learning culinary arts. And I went, please, that won't be a problem for me. So it's a lot of algebra and like story problems, because I'll give you an example. Like if you buy a case of carrots and you're paying by the pound, you're paying for the carrot, the peel, and the tops, right? Well, what do you actually use when you're making food? You cut the tops off the carrots, you peel the carrots, and what you're left with is a different weight than what you originally bought. And so you have to do the math to figure out what the trim is versus what the amount is, and then figure out the yield percentage, and then divide that so you figure out the new cost per pound. The cost per pound of what you actually use is higher than the cost you paid because you had waste. I know it sounds overwhelming, right? If you don't like math, that sounds like speaking another language, but I totally get it. And I was like, oh, that's easy math. I got it. It's common sense to me to figure that stuff out. It comes to me naturally, but it's like pages and pages of formulas to figure it out. And I'm like, no problem. Let's go on to the next chapter. Yeah, it's very interesting. You want me to show you how many, let me show you. It's really complicated, but interesting. Which also brings me to something else I wanted to tell you guys. I want to design a collection of bookmarks for all of my textbooks. Look at the size of these. And you want to know what a smart thing that I did? I looked on eBay for all of them to buy them used. If you love to buy books and you don't like buying them retail, look on eBay. I buy so many books on eBay for under $5 plus free shipping most of the time. I buy used books all the time, and then I don't feel guilty giving them away when I'm done. So these are like $100 textbooks and higher probably. I got them all for between $5 and $10 a piece, so I'm so happy about that. But anyway, I've got quite a few of them. I'll show them to you another day. But I want to come up with a bookmark collection, and and make crocheted bookmarks for all of them. Would you guys like those as patterns? Wouldn't they be great gifts too? Like if you're giving someone a book as a gift, to give it with a crocheted bookmark, wouldn't that be lovely? I do have some bookmark patterns on my website, but I want to make more for this. I feel like I want to do this right now. I want to create a collection that I'm passionate about while I'm being passionate about learning the culinary. And I told you, it's really important to me to tie all of my passions together right now. So tying in knitting and crochet with culinary arts is exciting to me. So making bookmarks for my books and then being able to photograph the bookmarks with my books is going to be exciting to me. So this is the Butcher's Yield Test. Look at how many formulas are on this page. Well, actually, let's take a step back. Look how tiny the text is on these pages. So look how tiny the text is. Look how thick the book is. And I've got like 7 of these to read right now. But I'm very excited. So look at all those formulas. Isn't that crazy? So, and they all have different names. That you have the as purchased cost, the APC. Then you have the what was the other one? The new fabricated the purchase weight. Then the new fabricated weight, the new fabricated cost, the new fabricated price per pound, the cost factor, the yield percentage, the number of portions of final product from the fabrication, the final cost per portion. Those are all separate things. This book is called The Professional Chef from the Culinary Institute of America. And I didn't want to show all the books today since we do dedicate today's show to Shawls for Sharing. But on the next episode of my regular show, I will show you all of the books. I don't know if they've all arrived yet. I think I have 2 more coming still. But they're all really big and really heavy and all chock full of amazing information. Hi, Gabriella. You saw a meme yesterday that said bookmarks are for underachievers. Ah, whatever, right? Who cares? Haters gonna hate, right? Those of us that love reading could care less what people's... If you're passionate about reading like me, do you even care if someone makes fun of you for reading, right? Oh, I was just making fun of being a reader. Yeah, that kind of stuff. It's either funny or it's like, oh, okay, haters gonna hate. Could care less, right? I love reading. I could, if I had more time, I would read more, and I still make time to read because I love reading. Okay, does anybody have questions about anything we've talked about so far? I still want to make some crochet plants too. I have one started. You want to see what I have started so far? How cute would it look to have a little crochet plant hanging from the ceiling, like around my windows in the RV? Like, I really want to spend a little more time decorating in here too, and I think crochet plants would be a great way to do that because they'll be light as a feather. I don't have to worry about baby Bjorn eating them. You don't have to worry about them being toxic. Don't have to worry about any of that stuff. And you may even recognize what I'm using for this one. I'm thinking about making a spider plant, like that spider plant from my family, or maybe this might be more like Christmas cactus, but you recognize it? It's not quite a foundation oval, it's a little thicker than that. These are more like cluster stitches. So they're like a double crochet cluster stitch, and just a long line of them. So then when I cut it, then I slip stitch to join in the first chain from the first one and make more. So they'll have to get woven in, but I want to make a whole bunch and make this like really thick and full, and then I'll make a tiny little hat. Upside down hat will be a cute little pot, and then we'll make a plant. Then we'll make a plant hanger for it, right? Then we'll crochet and do the chains and everything. So we'll be able to make the plant itself, the pot, and the plant hanger all with yarn. And then I'm not sure. I don't think I'm gonna. Can't decide if I want flowers on this one or not. But I will be asking. Not asking. I will be putting flowers on some of them. Gabrielle's asking about Bjorn. Bjorn's good. He was here in the beginning of the show. He's gone off to take a nap now, but if you watch the beginning of the show, he came in. He did come in on for a minute this morning. He's pouting right now. He wants to go outside. We went outside, put him on his collar and his leash this morning, and we went outside for a little bit. and I had to bring him in before he wanted to come in because it was time to get ready for the show, and he was not happy with me, and he's a little miffed right now. He wants to go back outside, and I promised him as soon as the show's over we'll go back outside. So anyway, yeah, I get it, Chris. I didn't get the joke at first, and what a luxury to be able to read a book without putting it down because you have so much free time. That is definitely a luxury. I get it. Uh, Only one book I think I did that with, and I ended up not sleeping to finish it, and that was The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I don't know how to say his last name. One of my favorite books in the world, and I did read that in one sitting. I did. I stayed up all night to finish it. The first time I read it, I've read it many times since. Great. Christine would love some bookmarks too. Yeah, bookmarks are great for beginners because they're smaller projects, and I'm going to really push the limits on it. I think as a collection, I would like to do one with motifs, one with faux overlapping motifs, one with a texture, maybe one, and one with like some lacier stitch patterns. I think there's a bunch of things, and did I say motifs already? Can't remember. Yeah, it's a total luxury to be able to sit and read a book in one sitting. And so good for anybody that can do that. The only way I can do that is by skipping sleep, which I don't do very often. Like when I did that with that book, it was a long time ago. Okay. Any other questions? Great. More people excited about the bookmarks. They're great for you, they're great for learning, and they're great for gifts too. And I think especially if you want to give, yeah, food shape. Oh, I was thinking about doing a kitty paw for the top, maybe doing a cat paw, and then do a long chain and a tassel at the bottom. Like, where's my list? I made a long list of things that I wanted to do for bookmarks yesterday. Where did I write that list? You know what? I might have wrote it. Let me see if I have it here. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have 12 ideas for bookmarks, so we'll see if I get to all of them. Let's see, what did I miss? Hi, Patricia. That's so sweet, Donna. You're beautiful too. Love you too. So sweet. Donna, you're so sweet. Okay. Hi, Irma. Yeah, if you can travel to work and not drive, like commuting like that on public transit, then you can read a lot. That, yes, then you absolutely can. If you don't have to do the driving, you could definitely read more. I agree. That's multitasking at its finest. Hi, Patricia. All right, does anybody have any other questions about this and this? This would be, I would really like a poncho like that. Really, what a flattering shape. And you could do those faux sleeves by adding a belt in there too. Do you want me to show you? Does everybody understand what I mean when I say adding a belt in there? Where'd my pen go? Because I've done that on ponchos in the past. Does everybody understand that? You want me to draw? You want me to try to draw it? Oh, that's cute. Sharon has crocheted cactus and snake plants. That's cute too. Okay, let's see if I can draw this as a poncho with the armhole sleeve things. No, I don't think I'm going to be able to draw it realistically, because what's going to happen is that it's going to end up being more like, it's going to look more rounded, but you would put, does that make sense? So that you would put, so where, and it would be probably pretty close to those lines. So this is where your head would be, your hands. Oh, isn't that a nice drawing? Your legs would be down there. I don't know, sometimes I get a kick out of really bad stick person drawings. That's really, really bad, but I think you get the idea, right? Oh, somebody else asked, said that they really liked this pattern that's coming out later today. This is the Aqua knit cowl pattern. This pattern's going to come out later today, but someone said that they really liked it but would like a crochet version, and the short answer is yes. This is something that I could easily replicate in crochet. We can do a type of chevron or feather and fan stitch pattern in single crochets or double crochets, and then do one row of a really long stitch like a double treble or a triple treble, and we could definitely get this pattern or this look in crochet. And it's funny because sometimes when people ask, can you make that same thing in knit or crochet? Sometimes the short answer is no, they won't look very similar, but this will absolutely translate well from both knitting and crochet. I have a pattern coming out today for this pattern, and I do have, and I'm adding a video to the pattern page where it shows you how to do that elongated twisted drop stitch. So you'll be able to see that stitch in an old video on there. I have not made a tutorial for this specific pattern, but again, I think the pattern is very easy to follow. The one stitch is a special stitch. It's explained in the pattern, and there's also a tutorial video on the actual stitch. So you could absolutely make this without having a full tutorial video for it. It's really quite easy. And it does not have to be made in 9 colors. It's amazing in 9 colors, but it doesn't have to be in 9 colors. You could do this in 1 color, 2 colors. You could use a self-striping yarn so it looks like a bunch of colors, but you didn't cut the yarn yourself. But you know I don't mind weaving in ends, and certainly not when I put TV on. You put TV on and watch something that gets your attention going. Weaving in ends is not difficult at all. This is called the Aqua. It's the Italian word for water, A-C-Q-U-A, and I think I was inspired by having that Italian restaurant where we had lunch yesterday, so I decided to name it an Italian word. So it's going to be called Aqua, and it'll be out later today. If you're on my mailing list, you'll get an email about it. If you're going to be on my website, you'll see it there, and I'll start sharing it throughout social media within the next couple of days. And there's a bunch of other new patterns on my website too. If you just go to the front page, you can see what's new right at the very top of the home page. Lots of good stuff on my website. Thanks, Chris. I love the colors of this. Yes, they are so pretty together. All right, any other questions? Well, we went long today. Sorry, not sorry, but sorry, not sorry. We had a lot to talk about. All right, I don't see any other questions, so thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy day to spend a few minutes here with me. I hope you enjoyed all of the instructions and education today, maybe some inspiration. Hopefully this empowers your creative spirit to want to go explore with either Crochet Power Book, with Tranquil Tile Shawl Pattern, or any other stitch patterns or motifs, and see what you can come up with. I hope you enjoyed seeing that you can think outside of the box even with a pattern. Hope you enjoyed chatting with me and everyone else. If you like my content, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. If you don't want to, that's fine too, but it's a nice idea. Anyway, let us make time to create, share, and inspire today and every day. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.